Dasha Chernyshova in Moscow there. Let's get some more reaction now with Sean Bell, who is a British retired Air Vice-Marshal and a military analyst. Sean, thank you very much indeed for being with us. Welcome back. From a military perspective, how would you describe what we saw in these targeted strikes and the sheer sort of audaciousness to extract President Maduro from Caracas? And what more do you know about this Delta force that carried out this extraction?
Yeah, I mean, it was undoubtedly a mission that would have been fraught with difficulty, but we have seen the Gerald Ford, one of the biggest, most modern aircraft carriers in the world, positioning off the coast for some weeks now. And whilst we won't know the details just yet, what does seem very evident is, having looked at what the Venezuelan military is about, it largely is configured to protect the president. It's got lots of militias and national security forces. The Navy and the Army and the Air Force aren't particularly well equipped. The Air Force has quite a number of fighter jets, but it's the air defense systems that are provided by Russia, the S-300. That would have been a major worry for the Americans, and I suspect what we saw there is a very well coordinated action. They've got stealth fighters, the F-35s based nearby, that will probably go in and take out those air defense systems, and that's why we saw those explosions at some of the Venezuelan military bases, La Carlota, for example, that's near Caracas. And then you saw the helicopters go in with probably, as you say, the Delta Force, one of their elite forces. It's a special ops unit that it specialises in complex, covert and dangerous operations. And it appears, we don't know yet, but President Trump said there were a few injuries but nobody lost. And therefore it does appear that this was quite an audacious but a largely successful operation.
And can we expect there to be any kind of response, the military saying, or the Vice President calling for a full military deployment? But does this now seem to have been cut and dry and it's finished, or can we expect more violence?
Well, it's difficult to tell, isn't it? Because I think we're all going to be waiting until 4 o'clock this afternoon when President Trump, makes his statement and announcement. We don't really know the full circumstances of Maduro's departure. Was there an element of a deal done, or was he snatched in his sleep, as appears to be the case? The worry from a military perspective is all too often in my career, it's very easy for leaders to send off the military to do a successful military operation. But the long-term security relies on a political solution, and sometimes people are very quick to enact the military without really thinking through what the implications are. What is the next phase of this plan? Is the US going to install some sort of puppet regime? Is there going to be some form of election? The nature abhors a vacuum, and the worry here is that Maduro and his folk down there, they're a bit like a hydra. They can pretty quickly generate another leader, and of course many of them have all sorts of financial interests that will mean that they want the status quo to remain. So I do think we'll be hanging on every word that the President has to say, President Trump that is, at 4 o'clock to try to answer those questions.
Yes, absolutely. And there are major questions, aren't there, about the legal legitimacy of what has happened. I mean, are there precedents for this?
Well, it's dangerous ground, isn't it? Because somebody in the military, like myself, tends to be very guided by the law of armed conflict and international law. That it's difficult to see how this follows that. I've been asked several times today about why America has done this, and people are talking about drugs, they're talking about oil. If you look at it, step back a little bit, the US published its national security strategy not only a few weeks ago, and it was pretty clear there that it's worried about America first and its continent, as it were. And China, Russia and Iran have been moving into Venezuela. They've been taking oil and in return providing arms. Most of the military capability that Venezuela has been provided by Russia, and there is a lot of investment going from China. That will worry America for all sorts of reasons, and also Cuba. We haven't brought that up in the conversation, but Cuba is also reliant on Venezuela, and it feels like this is a bit of a clean-up act that says President Trump doesn't want to control Venezuela, but he does want a thriving democracy. That's what appears to be the case, but I would venture this is a military guy trying to look beyond the military action which has been completed and see what the next steps are.
Indeed. Well, Sean, very grateful for your insights as ever. We look forward to having you back to get your reaction after we hear from President Trump at that press conference from Mar-a-Lago at 16G in the next couple of hours. Thank you very much, though, for now, Sean.